Hello everyone, Nikala here from Nutrisoil. I'm up in the wet tropics in Queensland at the Regenerative Cane Farming Forum, and I've got Layton here from Proserpine, who is a cane farmer. Layton's been growing his cane a little bit differently, and I'd like Layton just to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, hello, it's Layton here from Proserpine. Yes, we've been conventional since I bought the farm in 2003. But in the last sort of 10 years, we've tended to go more on the biological side. We're moving reasonably quickly towards our end goal. We've hit a few hurdles in terms of limitations to what we can do, mainly with the weather, in terms of incorporating like cattle within our multi-species crops to improve the biological. So that side of it needs a lot more work. The other side is to introduce some plants within the cane crop, within the ratoons. So that's the next work in progress. We've done some preliminary trials, and we just got to get the timing and the right sort of plant heights to when we incorporate, and where to plant the stuff, because it's the one big factor is the compaction. So we're looking at trying to use the compacted area for planting these crops, and they don't grow so well in the compacted soil, even though they're moist. We've just got to play around with it a bit. But certainly that's the emphasis, and the whole idea is to limit our use of fungicides, herbicides, most chemicals, insecticides, and also the use of inorganic fertilizers. We've done a lot of trialing with zero phosphate, but we're finding that our phosphate levels, particularly our total levels, are not as high as we expected. We've really gone back to low rates of phosphate again, and just to see whether we can improve our yields. But otherwise, nitrogen, we've been playing with nitrogen for many years. We've dropped it from 160 down to 120, and then we've gone a bit further down, but we kind of think that our sweet spot's somewhere around the 110 to 120, and that's in ratoons. After a multi-species crop, we certainly drop our nitrogen way down. We go as low as 60, or maybe even intend to go to zero in the future. So we're moving along slowly. We've dropped our potash. We've converted from muriate of potash, which is very toxic to the microbes, to sulfate of potash. But the trouble is, sulfate of potash is twice the price, so we've gone half the rate. The sulfur is obviously a big thing. The other thing is we're looking at trace elements as well, things like molybdenum, zinc, boron, manganese, iron, all that sort of stuff. But that's a work in progress as well. But hopefully the microbes are going to do that for us later on, and we don't have to have those costs of applying these micronutrients or trace elements. So that's our story, and that's where we're going.
So how are you building the microbes? So you're using some biologicals, some extracts, looking at making some things yourself? Yes,
well, the Johnson Sioux is the composting that we're intending to go, which is the static made compost. It takes a year to make, and according to Professor Johnson, it produces a very fungal dominated sort of compost, which is what we require, because most of our soils are biologically bacterial dominated, and that's the reason why the compaction as well is because of the high bacteria. We've done some tests and we're finding that our bacteria is on the high side, but we do have, it's like 60-40 to, bacteria to fungi. So, our fungals are there, but we've got to just build them up, I think, more. So we are using inducers as with Nutrisoil's product. And then we've also been using things like sea sol. We've been tinkering around with fish hydrolysates. There's various other trichoderma and stuff that we've tried. But at the end of the day, I think our cheapest option is to produce a good compost, and maybe up the quantities of compost. I know in the wheat areas they're only using 50 litres or so of the extract, whereas we should probably be using double that. But that's what we're going to find out.
And with the extract, you're talking about using worm castings and compost in a 1,000 litre container, and you're brewing that up over a couple of hours just with some aeration.
Yes.
And using that as more of a water source, you're hoping, with your worm liquid,
yes,
your sea sol, any liquid nutrients at all, or all of your nutrients are granular?
No, most of the nutrients are granular, and if we do need any trace elements, that will be put on foliar, because we'll use a worm juice as a foliar as well. We also use worm juice for, if we have to use Roundup to control any grasses, guinea grass and that sort of stuff. We're finding that the worm juice works very well. It actually halves the rate, and also you can, it's ingested into the plant a lot quicker. So we're finding that we're getting the kill a lot quicker. So it's working reasonably well, and it's reasonably cheap.
That would be because of the fulvic acids in the worm liquid opening up the cells on the leaf of the plant, so the penetration is a lot quicker.
Yes.
And also the amino acids in it helping that plant use all the compounds that it needs.
Yep.
Okay. And multi-species crops?
Multi-species, we've tried, with the cattle we were introducing sorghum and millet, but we've gone away from that because of the the volunteer problems later on, and it's quite an issue when you start introducing things like sorghum into your fields, because it's quite difficult to eradicate the sorghum. You literally got to round it up, and on a few occasions, and once it's your crop's planted and you get the sorghum coming up in the crop, very difficult to control. So that's one of the sort of minor mistakes that we've made. So we're just cutting the grasses out completely, and I don't think we need the grasses because we've got the monocrop of cane there, so that that's a C4, and the mycorrhizal fungi will also be introduced by things like sunflowers, sun hemp, we put a lot of the other legumes like soybeans, cowpea. Cowpea is a bit of a problem because it's a climber, but it can be controlled quite easily. The other thing is we use some brassicas, things like turnip and chicory. So those are just our cover crops, and we try to introduce 8 different species of cover crop, so they're working in a symbiotic relationship with each other. And obviously in the underground microbiome, you're having that symbiotic relationship, and it all goes well for the cane. So the cane should benefit. So that's why we're trying to introduce the intercropping, where we're gonna have these crops growing in the cane. Once the cane's canopied, obviously they'll terminate, but they should have seeded by then, and the following season hopefully those seeds will germinate, and we will continue to have a a crop of, in the interspace. But that's to be seen.
Well, there's been lots of growers with stories just like this at the Regenerative Cane Farming Forum. It's a very dynamic industry. There's lots of changes. They're all trying to find out ways where they can use less inputs, and many of them are not using fertiliser at the plant cane stage because of these other systems that they're putting together to bring nutrients and the cycling in naturally. Thank you very much, Layton, for having a chat with us. There's lots of growers just like this that we've been meeting at the Regenerative Cane Farming Forum, and we've been discussing all of the challenges and all of the opportunities. So it's been a great 2 days.
Thank you.